Greetings from Addis Ababa and welcome to Pulse of Africa News Hour. I'm Gamachisa Mandira bringing you the latest developments shaping Africa and beyond. Stay tuned. Let's begin with Ethiopia. Ethiopia has taken a significant step toward strengthening its long-term refugee and development strategy following a high-level validation workshop on the Mekatet Roadmap, a national framework designed to integrate refugee support with host community development. The meeting, organized by the government of Ethiopia in collaboration with the Refugees and Returnees Service (RRS) and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees (UNHCR), brought together senior officials, development partners, and humanitarian stakeholders. It focused on finalizing priorities and institutional roles and coordination mechanisms to ensure effective implementation of the roadmap. State Minister of Finance Emerita Soaso emphasized that the success of the initiative will depend on a strong institutional coordination, clear accountability, and alignment with national development planning. She also highlighted the importance of realistic resource planning and efficient financing, noting the constraints of the evolving global funding environment. Participants stressed the need to strengthen delivery systems in refugee hosting regions and enhance institutional capacity at all levels. They also called for a well-structured coordination mechanism to ensure that implementation remains consistent, efficient, and results-driven. Director General of the Refugees and Returnees Service, Taiba Hassan, reaffirmed Ethiopia's commitment to refugee protection and deeper integration of refugee response within national development frameworks. She underscored the importance of clearer institutional mandates and improved service delivery for both refugees and host communities. The workshop also included discussions with UNHCR Assistant High Commissioner for Operations, Rauf Mazou, focusing on operational coordination and sustainable implementation of the roadmap. Both sides reiterated their commitment to strengthening cooperation and delivering integrated long-term solutions. Overall, the validation workshop marked a key milestone in operationalizing the market roadmap, reinforcing Ethiopia's broader effort to align humanitarian response with national development goals and promote inclusive, sustainable outcomes for refugees and host communities. Moving to the north, AUC chairperson welcomes Pan-African Parliament elections. The African Union Commission, AUC, has welcomed the successful conclusion of the elections of the President and members of Bureau of the Pan-African Parliament, PAP, held in Midrand, South Africa, describing the process as a strong demonstration of Africa's commitment to democratic governance and institutional renewal. In the election, Algeria's Fatih Bouteflika was elected as the new president of the Pan-African Parliament for the 2026 to 2029 term, securing a strong majority during an extraordinary session, and Ethiopia's Dr. Asheber Wolde Giorgis is elected first vice president of the Pan-African Parliament. The president's election followed his endorsement as the unified candidate of the North African region, reflecting a broader regional consensus and Algeria's expanding diplomatic influence within continental institutions. The AUC chairperson Mahmoud Ali Yusuf congratulated Bouteflika and all newly elected Bureau members representing Africa's 5 regions. He also paid tribute to the outgoing PAP President Fortune Charambira for his leadership and contributions in strengthening the Parliament's role within the African Union governance framework. Yusuf emphasized that the orderly and transparent conduct of the elections reflects member states' adherence to the principles of democracy, rule of law, and inclusive representation enshrined in the AU Constitutive Act. He stressed that the Pan-African Parliament continues to evolve as a key platform for amplifying the voices of African citizens and strengthening continental legislative cooperation. The chairperson also represented AU leadership on behalf of Evreste Nashimie, overseeing the electoral process and the swearing-in of newly elected members of parliament, further underscoring the importance of institutional legitimacy and continuity within the union's structures. In his inaugural address, President-elect Fatih Bouteflika highlighted the strategic role of North Africa as a bridge between Africa and global markets, stressing the region's potential to advance integration and economic transformation. He also pointed to Algeria's leadership under President Abdelmadjid Tebboune in promoting peace, development and African-led solutions to continental challenges. The leadership transition, aligned with the African Union's regional rotation principle, is expected to shape the PAP's legislative agenda over the coming years, particularly as Africa intensifies efforts to strengthen coordination, governance and integration across the continent. The OC reaffirmed its commitment to supporting ongoing institutional reforms aimed at enhancing the effectiveness, authority and impact of the Pan-African Parliament, expressing confidence that the new leadership will serve with unity, integrity and dedication to Pan-African ideals.
Are you a consumer or a trader or a manufacturer? Where will you be on Monday the 2nd? Save the date. The Made in Ethiopia Expo 2026 opens its doors, your one-stop marketplace for everything industrial, innovative, and proudly local. Discover textiles and leathers, cutting-edge chemicals, precision metalworks, construction tech, and tomorrow's electronics, all under one roof. From raw inputs to finished goods, you will find it all. Taste the delicious local flavors, join lively discussions, forums, cheer at product competitions, and connect with local and international manufacturers. Promote your brand, meet buyers, source where your business needs, or shop for your home. It's opportunity in motion. Join us on May the 2nd to 6th, 2026 at the Addis International Convention Center. Register to exhibit or just come and explore. Don't miss out. Organized by the Ministry of Industry for Universal Sovereignty, Made in Ethiopia.
Welcome back, viewers. You're still watching Pulse of Africa. Our stories continue. African Union pushes infrastructure integration drive. African leaders have reaffirmed their commitment to accelerating continental infrastructure integration following the conclusion of the 5th ordinary session of the African Union's Specialized Technical Committee on Transport and Energy, African Union STC TNE, held in Johannesburg, South Africa. The 4-day meeting brought together ministers and experts to review progress on major continental initiatives, including the Programme for Infrastructure Development in Africa, PIDA, the African Single Electricity Market, FFSEM, the Single African Air Transport Market, SAATM, and the Grand Inga Hydropower Project. A new bureau was also elected to guide the committee's work over the next 2 years. AU Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, Lorato Mateboge, emphasized that Africa's infrastructure challenge is not driven by resource scarcity, but by structural dependence and underinvestment.
To address the energy deficit, we currently have our flagship program, which is the single electricity market on the continent. And that policy framework is meant to integrate our different power pools on the continent so that we can really strengthen connectivity and the grid for energy. We also have a number of strategic interventions in the renewable energy space.
She noted that despite holding vast energy and mineral reserves, the continent continues to face major deficits, including limited electricity access for hundreds of millions and high transport costs that reduce competitiveness. She called for increased infrastructure investment of at least 4.5% of GDP, stronger modernization of private capital, and deeper regional integration under the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Primarily now, what we are focusing on is prioritizing investment and the strengthening of transmission lines on the continent, because it's one of the biggest weaknesses, including in our ability to integrate our energy systems. And one other option that our leaders and our ministers are considering is leveraging nuclear for energy generation, noting that that can really assist us in terms of base load and it's clean energy. So we are having discussions as well around that. In terms of leveraging partners, and I think you mentioned China in particular, we remain open to partnering with China. We've also noted that actually China is our largest external investor in infrastructure. 24% of our infrastructure financing on the continent is from China. So that's a very big number, and we want to continue to leverage partnerships from China and other development-oriented partners.
She stressed that the key challenge has shifted from policy design to execution, urging member states to focus on implementation and measurable outcomes. South Africa's Minister of Electricity and Energy, Kosciencio Ramokgopa, highlighted the need to treat transport and energy as an integrated system supporting industrial growth. He called for a shift from raw material exports toward local beneficiation, manufacturing and value addition linking infrastructure development directly to job creation and economic sovereignty.
We want to participate in the nuclear fuel cycle. We're already in mining. The deposits are here. It's other people who are mining it. They're taking out, but the nuclear fuel cycle, we want to mine, convert it from solid to gas. So participate in the conversion, enrichment. Of course, we won't go above 20% of enrichment. Otherwise, it's a different conversation, fabrication, and then reactors themselves, and then waste. So that's a conversation we want to have.
Outlining progress under various initiatives, outgoing STC Chair Alimusime Faisal of Ethiopia pointed to advances in railway planning, aviation infrastructure and energy strategy development. He stressed that global energy volatility presents an opportunity for Africa to strengthen refining capacity, logistics systems and strategic reserves. The session concluded with the endorsement of several key frameworks, including the African e-mobility framework and the Pan-African Action Plan for Active Mobility, as well as progress reports on energy transition strategies and maritime and road safety charters. Overall, the meeting underscored a continental shift from planning to execution, with leaders emphasizing that integrated transport and energy infrastructure will be central to Africa's industrialization, economic integration and long-term development under the AFCFTA framework. Meanwhile, UN Security Council extends UNMISS mandate to 2027. The United Nations Security Council has voted to extend the mandate of the United Nations mission in South Sudan, UNMISS, for another year, keeping the peacekeeping operation active until 30 April 2027. The resolution introduced by the United States was adopted with 13 votes in favor, while Russia and China abstained. The decision followed contentious negotiations over troop levels, the mission's political role, and references to thematic issues such as women, peace and security, and climate change. U.S. Envoy Mike Waltz defended the extension, stating that peacekeeping should remain a temporary tool to help host governments manage crises rather than a permanent arrangement. He also emphasized the need for accountability, responsible use of public funds, and improved governance in South Sudan.
Colleagues, the United States is serious when we say that peacekeeping operations are meant to be a temporary tool to help host governments navigate peace and security crisis, not an endless stream of support for states to exploit and misuse. Peacekeepers should be in places where they can work themselves out of a job. And that's why this mandate matters. For the first time in many years, this council is taking a serious step to streamline UNMISS, cutting capacity building and development activities that allow the transitional government to avoid its own responsibilities and focusing on core peace and security tasks.
Under the new framework, the authorized troop ceiling for UNMISS will be reduced from 17,000 to 12,500 personnel, while the police ceiling remains unchanged at 2,101 officers. The adjustment reflects evolving assessments of security conditions and operational priorities in the country. Mike Waltz underscored the urgent need for a democratic, transparent and inclusive election that would lead the country to a lasting peace.
And peaceful, credible elections require the outstanding provisions of the 2018 peace agreement to be implemented first, which they haven't been. So if the transitional government truly means to hold free and fair elections, it must first return to genuine dialogue among the parties to that agreement.
The resolution also states that the Security Council remains open to further adjustments in both force levels and mission tasks, depending on developments on the ground and the level of cooperation from South Sudan's transitional authorities. UNMISS continues to play a central role in protecting civilians and supporting the fragile peace process in South Sudan, where political tensions and security challenges remain significant despite ongoing international engagement.
Every day, millions of voices speak online, sharing stories, building communities, shaping narratives. Now, for the first time ever, Africa's leading social media voices are coming together at the African Social Media Influencer Summit, happening from May 7 to 8 in Addis Ababa. It will be taking place at the Adwa Victory Memorial Museum. Over 200 influencers from across Africa will be attending. This summit will serve as a platform for collaboration, innovation, and conversation, where creators connect, exchange ideas, and shape agendas. Go to asmis.org right now to register for the summit, whether you want to attend as an influencer, partner, sponsor, or speaker. ASMIS, where Africa's voices connect.
Now to business news. U.S. and Zambia launched $3 billion Mingomba corporate mine investment. The United States and Zambia have officially launched construction of the Mingomba corporate mine, a landmark $3 billion investment and the largest private sector project in Zambia's history. The development is being led by U.S.-based Cobalt Metals in partnership with the state-owned ZCCM Investments Holdings. The groundbreaking ceremony in Lusaka was attended by President Hakainde Hichilema and the U.S. ambassador to Zambia, underscoring the strategic importance of the project for bilateral relations and mineral cooperation. President Hichilema said the Mingomba mine will go beyond capital investment by introducing advanced mining technologies, strengthening skills transfer and building local capacity within Zambia's mining sector.
Vision is difficult for many to appreciate, but when it is implemented or translated to the ground and people can see shafts like what we have gone through to see today, this morning, then many more begin to see what is the meaning of vision. So I want to thank the investors in the project once more for your vision, which vision got aligned with the Zambian government and the Zambian people's vision. I think the convergence of that vision creates projects like this, and subsequently mines like Mingomba.
The project is also expected to generate employment for engineers and contractors while supporting infrastructure and economic development in surrounding communities. U.S. Ambassador to Zambia, Michael Gonzalez, stated that the initiative emphasizes long-term partnerships and local empowerment rather than purely extractive resource use. It reflects a broader shift toward more integrated mining projects that combine extraction with an industrial and social development goals.
Companies like Cobalt are not just investors. They're partners in Zambia's future, partners that create opportunity, who multiply capacity and who leave behind a legacy far greater than the ore they mine or the taxes that they pay. The roles of government should be to create the conditions to attract, to facilitate investment and growth, and then to get out of the way. To facilitate and monitor, absolutely, but not to control or impede. Zambia has incredible, extraordinary assets, from her mineral wealth to the young and dynamic population, that tradition of political stability. But assets alone do not attract and certainly don't sustain investment. It's the enabling environment that matters enormously.
The investment reinforces Zambia's growing role as a key global copper supplier at a time when demand for critical minerals is rising sharply due to the global energy transition and expansion of green technologies. Namibia clears IMF debt, marking a major fiscal milestone. Namibia has reached a major fiscal milestone after fully clearing its outstanding obligations to the International Monetary Fund (IMF), effectively reducing its IMF debt balance to zero. The repayment, totaling $23,887,500 was completed according to data reported up to March this year. The achievement is being framed as part of a broader fiscal consolidation strategy by the government of Namibia aimed at strengthening macroeconomic stability and improving long-term debt sustainability. Officials say the move reflects ongoing efforts to reduce reliance on external borrowing while maintaining disciplined public financial management. The development places Namibia among a small number of African countries that have recently cleared IMF obligations alongside cases such as Mozambique, reflecting a wider regional trend toward reducing exposure to multilateral debt and restructuring public finances. While the debt clearance strengthens the country's financial credibility, continued economic resilience will depend on sustained reforms, diversified growth and increased investment inflows across key sectors of the country. The repayment signals confidence in Namibia's fiscal trajectory, but caution that maintaining stability will require consistent policy discipline and progress in expanding the country's productive base beyond traditional revenue sources. Finally, sport news. USM Alger crowned champions for 10th time. USM Alger have been crowned Algeria Cup champions after a 2-1 victory over CR Belouizdad in a tense final held at the Nelson Mandela Stadium in Algiers. The win gives USM Alger a record 10th Algeria Cup title, reinforcing their status as one of the most successful clubs in Algeria football history. The final was a tightly contested derby with both sides showing intensity in a match-up that has become one of the country's most prominent rivalries. USM Alger took control of the game in the final half, opening the scoring in the 22nd minute through Dramane Kamagate before doubling the lead just before halftime. CR Belouizdad responded in the second half with a headed goal from Younes Aoussa, but were unable to complete the comeback despite sustained pressure. The victory also extends USM Alger's advantage in head-to-head cup final meetings between the two Algiers rivals, while CR Belouizdad remain online cup titles after falling short in their 5th consecutive final appearance. Now let's take a look at the weather forecast from across the continent. And with that, we conclude this hour's headlines, but the conversation doesn't end here. For more updates and in-depth coverage, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, and stay connected on TikTok for the latest news. I'm Gamachisa Mandita from Pulse of Africa. Before we go, don't miss our weekly program Roundup coming up next. Thank you for watching and goodbye.